Hello and welcome to this webinar on the Advanced Study Phase. My name is Matthias Karton. I'm the Program Director of the Bachelor of Science here at Frankfurt School. I hope you're all having a great time wherever you are right now in the world during your semester abroad. I can also tell you that here in Frankfurt the weather is getting slightly worse. We're clearly moving into fall with a drop in temperatures, some rain, some fog. So I hope that wherever you are right now, you will have better weather and above all, you will have a good time, have a great adventure, make lots of new friends, new experiences in the way that you expected your time abroad to be. This webinar is supposed to give you an insight into what will come next. The Advanced Study Phase, the 2 semesters that you will enter when you get back to Frankfurt in early next year. I will give you an overview of what the Advanced Study Phase looks like, how the selection process looks like, what you have to do and when, and generally give you advice in terms of how that whole thing will unroll. Again, I will begin, or I am already in, some key facts. We will then talk about the time structure, this thematic structure of the Advanced Study Phase, the selection process, and then at the end you will have the opportunity to ask questions using the chat function. The webinar will also be recorded and we will make it available for you afterwards if you want to watch it again, or of course for those of you fellow students who are not able to join us live. Now, what are the main differences between the Advanced Study Phase and the Basic Study Phase? The first one is that primarily it consists of electives. And I say primarily because depending on which concentration you're in, there may be some mandatory modules that you will have to complete, but no matter which concentration you are, you will all have electives, which means that you can see this as a kind of a restaurant menu where you can pick and choose from those modules that you are primarily interested in. Also, almost all electives are fully taught in English. There are very, very few exceptions where there is a good content-based reason for not having them in English. For example, we have modules on German corporate law and they are taught in German because obviously it doesn't make much sense to teach that subject matter in English. Overall, you will have to complete 8 different modules plus the thesis, which is worth 12 ECTS credits, so the equivalent of 2 modules. What you can see here is the time structure that the 2 final semesters will follow. There are no news here for you. It's the same quarter structure that you're used to. I added the dates for your information here. And it will start in early February, then go through all 2020 until Christmas, basically the 19th of December 2020. What is a bit different compared to the Basic Study Phase is the time model. And we have a few challenges here because there are electives, which means that no 2 students will have exactly the same timetable because everybody mixes and picks and chooses different modules. So the majority of the modules will run once a week over 8 hours from the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. That are the slots that you can see here, the 5 slots A to D in the yellowish color. In addition, we also have modules that are offered in the evening, and they are split over 2 days per week, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday in the evening slot from 5 to 8:15. There are no regular classes on either Saturdays nor Friday evenings. We use those as basically maneuvering space. Sometimes we have workshops, for example, that take place on a weekend, or also if we have classes that for some reason need to be rescheduled. As I mentioned, you will also have to write a thesis, a written research paper for which you have 2 months. And there are different staggered starting dates, and you can basically pick and choose the one that suits you best. The first possibility to start is on the 1st of June, basically after the 6th semester. And then you can start every month until mid-November. That is the final starting point. If you add 2 months of time to write it, that will mean you have to hand it in by mid-January at the latest. If we look at the thematic structure of the advanced study phase, we see that there are 4 big pillars: finance and banking, managing organizations, economics, and business and society. And all electives are clustered in one of these thematic areas. In addition, there are also so-called specialized tracks, and they consist of mandatory modules for some of the concentrations. The selection requirements are as follows, and as they differ by concentration, I have different slides, and we'll start with the easiest case, the students of BWL, Banking and Finance, International Management and Marketing. They don't have any mandatory modules at all, which means all 8 modules in the advanced study phase are electives for you. You pick and choose basically as you like. The only requirement is that you have to cover each of the 4 thematic pillars at least once. So 1 module minimum from each of the 4 thematic pillars. Wirtschaftsinformatik and Digital Innovation and FinTech, those students have 4 mandatory modules that you can see here on the slide, which leaves 4 electives that you can choose freely, and with those 4 electives you have to cover at least 2 of the 4 areas. Management, philosophy and economics is special in many respects. Also when it comes to the course selection, you do have 4 specialized courses that will be offered in the 6th and 7th semester. However, you do not have to do them all. You can, but you do not have to. You can decide whether you want to do 3 or all 4 of them, and correspondingly you will have either 4 or 5 electives, because in total it always has to be 8. That's up to you. And with your electives, again, like with the other students, you have to cover at least 2 of the 4 thematic pillars that we have in the program. And then finally we have our auditors, BWL mit Schwerpunkt Wirtschaftsprüfung. These students have 2 electives. No, apologies. They have 2 mandatory modules, which leaves 6 electives, and with those 6 electives you have to cover also 2 out of the 4 thematic areas. One thing you will have to decide, basically on your preferences, internships, other planning, is how you will structure your year. I said it's going to be 8 modules in total. You can select a maximum of 3 modules per quarter. Now, I strongly advise you to not go to that maximum in a quarter where you're also planning to write your thesis. This is not something that we're checking or enforcing, so this is just a recommendation. But please make sure that you leave enough time to write your thesis. So either do it in the summer break, for example, or if you want to do it during the winter semester at one of the time slots available there, then do make sure that you only have 1 or maybe 2 other modules going on at the same time. You can also, if you like, skip one of the 4 quarters. You don't have to do that, but you can if you have other plans, for example, because you want to do an internship. Which ones you can skip also depends a little bit, or no, it depends primarily on your concentration. If you do not have any mandatory modules, so BWL, International Management, Banking and Finance, Marketing and MPE, you can skip any of the 4 modules, up to you. If you are a Wirtschaftsinformatik or Digital Innovation and FinTech student, you can only skip Q3 because you will have mandatory modules in all other 3 quarters. And finally, the Wirtschaftsprüfer students auditing concentration, they can skip either Q3 or Q4 because in the other 2 quarters will be their mandatory modules. The timeline consists of 3 major touch points. The first is a kind of pre-selection that will take place in October. There we will present you with the entire course spectrum, the way we're planning it right now, and we will ask you to make your selection for each of the quarters. At this point in time, we do not know yet when exactly they will be scheduled, so whether they will be on a Monday or on a Tuesday and so on and so forth. And we need these results primarily for our planning purposes. So based on your choice, we will determine A, which courses we might have to cancel because there is too little demand, which courses we might have to offer twice or even 3 times in a row because the demand is so high. And then the third reason why we need this planning phase is that we will try to make as little overlaps as possible. So as you can imagine, we'll have about 40 modules running throughout the 2 semesters. So some of these courses will have to run on the same time slot. They will run in parallel. Now we will try to make sure that those course combinations that are particularly popular with students, that we put them in different time slots, so that you have, ideally, as many of you as possible will have your first choice selection made possible. So therefore, this initial selection phase is very important for us, so please do take that seriously. If you do not participate or if you just click on something, then obviously our planning process afterwards will not be as good as it otherwise could be. Then, probably in December, we'll do the final selection for the spring term, and there you will see exactly the dates of the courses, and you can make changes if you want to. In some cases, for example, if you happen to have overlaps, you also may have to do some changes. That will take place in December for the spring term, and then we'll do the same thing again in the summer, in July, for the fall term. Again, you don't have to do any changes unless there are overlaps, but if you change your mind, you can always do so. Of course, always on the condition that there is space still in the module that you want to choose. That is it for my presentation, and now we will have the opportunity, or you will have the opportunity, to ask questions that you may have using the chat function to the right of your screen.